Okay, welcome everybody. This is the December community call for Radius. And I think everybody knows me. My name is Zach Casper, product manager in the Azure Incubations team. And I'll be running our call today. Let's see, let's just jump into it. We have primarily the Radius community contributors here. We have a couple of folks from outside the project, but we do have quite a few attendees, quite a few viewers on our YouTube channel of this call. So it's primarily, meant for offline viewing. But if you do have a question in real time, just raise your hand. We'll unmute you. And but if you are watching this later, thank you for watching, and be sure to hit us up with questions on Discord. There's the link to our Discord server there, and we look forward to interacting with you asynchronously. But we do monitor that pretty closely on Discord. So today, the agenda for today, we'll do a little quick birthday celebration. You'll find out about that in just a second. We're trying something new this time, little lightning round updates. So you'll hear from a couple of different Radius engineers on their updates. And then I'm going to show you some work that we've been doing around AI integration and really, the MCP server kind of gives it away. So I'll show you a prototype recording demo of a Radius MCP server that Will Smith, who's on the call with us, developed, and we showed that at KubeCon. That went over pretty well. And then he's not here yet. He's going to be here at the bottom of the hour, but we do have a special guest, CNCF ambassador and Project Score maintainer, Mathieu Benoit. He'll join us, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the prototyping he's been doing with Radius and Score, which is pretty fun. So he's going to show us. He's going to show us a live demo of what he's built. So I'm interested in seeing that, actually seeing it for the second time, but y'all see it for the first time. So happy second birthday. So Radius launched on October, I forgot the date. Reshma probably can help me. But Radius launched publicly 2 years ago, this past month. And so we just wanted to make sure to mark that milestone. So a ton of work has been done, primarily by me, who used Gemini and Nano Banana to create this Radius themed 2-year birthday cake. But seriously though, I took everybody that did anything to any one of our repos, and there was about 264 different people who have worked with us over the last 2 years. So thank you very much for making Radius what it is. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for the critical feedback, the encouragement. This is really great. I mean, it's like pretty amazing when you see this many number of people, right? And so it's actually it's kind of shocking, like these systems that we work on, a cloud, and they're like they take so many people. I always, it's kind of like the movies. Like, does it really take this many people to make a movie? And yeah, does it really take this many people to build a community project like Radius? And it's always shocking how many it is. So thank you very much to this 264 different people that contributed to Radius over the last 2 years. That's a lot of people. All right, let's keep going. Lightning round update. So what? Oh, October 20. What was it, Reshma? October 18th.
2020.
All right, and of course a ton of work went into that. That was just the, that was the sort of the launch. So a lot of work, actually. So a lot of the work has been going on for more than 2 years. So lightning round updates. I don't know. I'm trying something new. Trying to make these community calls kind of interesting. So everybody here, we have a lot of Radius contributors here. So if you ever have a quick update you want to give, please help me. get the word out on all the work that's being done. So we just have a couple of lightning updates. So these are like quick 1-minute updates. The first one, Yetkin, you want to talk real quick? You have
Sure.
a minute or something. This isn't like super. I didn't add a countdown timer or anything, but tell us what you've been doing with Rad Environment Update and what our users need to know.
Sure. By the way, I think I remember that date, October 18. I remember the end of that sprint, and it was a success. Yeah, it was the first time we pushed Radius to production. Yeah, we've done some usability updates. Not just me, but a few other friends from the team have been working on them. I will quickly talk about the redeem delete command. We've added a few different features that did not exist before. So we did cascading deletion. The redeem delete command performs a complete cleanup now. It deletes the environment itself along with all the applications and resources deployed within it, so that you don't need to go and manually remove each resource first to be able to delete the environment. We also did graceful handling. The command is idempotent right now. If the environment doesn't exist or was already deleted, it succeeds gracefully rather than erroring out, which I think simplifies the cleanup scripts and error handling if you are using them in your CI/CD pipelines or local development, let's say. If we have some flags like dash yes, and users can bypass this confirmation. So it can use this flag to bypass the confirmation, so that again, if you are using it in your pipelines, it's going to be easier for you to have the pipeline run cleanly without getting input from the user without that need. And I think, yeah, that's pretty much it. We are going to continue working on some usability updates for our comments, and we are going to give you all the updates in this call or in our Discord channel, I think.
So maybe let me see like the scenario where you would use this. So for example, this is what I'm thinking as you were talking is I could do a rad deploy of a bicep file that had an environment definition in it. That environment could have specific recipes. So I could have in a pipeline rad deploy an environment, rad deploy the application that I want to test, and then just a rad environment delete -y, and it would just clean the whole thing up.
Yes, so I'm also thinking of, let's say that your development team did some changes, added some features, and then they pushed that to a branch, and then they created a PR. Maybe in your testing AKS cluster or Kubernetes cluster, a namespace can be spun up immediately, and then that new feature can be deployed using Radius to that namespace. An environment may be created for like test this feature or something like that, and then at the end the CI/CD can go and delete that environment, so the cleanup would be easier.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think the rad group delete operates the same way.
Yes, we've done that update too. It was released, I think, 2 months ago, something like that. It works the same way as environment delete right now.
Gotcha.
It
Okay.
also goes and this time it goes and deletes. I need to check, but it needs to it deletes all the environment and all the applications, all the resources underneath that group.
Yeah. So one day we should do a topic on the community call here of talking about resource groups and environments.
Yes.
They're basically our two containers, buckets of resources. So I think that's probably a good topic for another community call is to just explain that. But we do have a resource group, which is kind of, you think about it as a Kubernetes namespace or an Azure resource group, and then within that an environment.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Yetkin.
Thank you.
All right, next one. Again, these aren't like these aren't super big ones. These are all little bitty ones, but we are continuing to kind of slow burn on usability improvements, and so you'll see we're just highlighting some of those. Brooke did this one. He's not here. He's at the DMV, but Rad Workspace show errors out if there's no current workspace. Very annoying, but we did fix this one, so I think it gives nice error messages. So really just a fix to error messages. But I wanted to highlight it here just for anybody watching and on the call here now. There's some confusion on what is a Radius workspace. It's nothing more than your CLI configuration. Okay, so you can think about it as a cube context, right? So the workspace is essentially what resource group and what environment are you currently using. So when I say rad deploy app.bicep, well, it has to deploy to an environment and it has to deploy to a resource group. And if you don't specify those, it gets it from your current workspace. And so rad workspace show tells you what workspace you're in. Of course, if you didn't have one, then it used to puke on you, and now it actually gives something helpful. So thank you, Brooke, for fixing that little annoying one. And also, he did the next one. So Brooke's not here, but basically the rad resource type commands, the help task text and the argument naming, it was just kind of not great. So, Brooke made it more, I don't know, written. It's more helpful help text. The interesting thing about this one was, I think this was done by GitHub Copilot coding agent, did the actual PR, if I'm reading it right. And so I thought that was really interesting. So on the Radius core engineering team, we're really experimenting quite a bit with how to leverage primarily GitHub Copilot, but some of the team, I know some of the folks are using Codex. I know some of us were really enamored with Claude Code. So it's great working on open source because we can try all these different tools. And this one was done by an autonomous, like the asynchronous, not the pair programming model. So that was kind of interesting to see. But, very, very, very small thing, just fixing help text. Will Smith, what the heck happened with Bitnami? Tell us the story and what all you did.
Yeah. So, yeah, many of you in the community probably saw this over the summer. There's this really sudden announcement from Bitnami where they were going to deprecate or delete basically their entire software catalog in favor of a different one or a paid one or something, right? So, obviously they have their reasons for that, but there was a huge meltdown on the internet about it. I read there were multiple Hacker News posts about it. So anyway, this affected us because we did indeed use Bitnami repositories, Helm chart repos, and so on in our project. So that was in a couple of places, and there's a label here that says behind the scenes. That it should not affect users at the end of the day, which is kind of the spirit of this like 1 minute little talk, right? We just want to talk about some interesting things that would otherwise kind of go under the radar. But we think it's really interesting from a engineering and open source management perspective. So yeah, so the what we were using Bitnami for was for Contour, which we use for the Radius gateways. So if you use Radius gateways, you have to have a Contour installed on your Kubernetes cluster for now. So Contour, as it turned out, was hosted on Bitnami's Helm charts repo, so that broke. And we also used the Bitnami repos for our testing of Flux. So there was a pretty complicated testing pattern where we would simulate Git operations in our functional tests, right? Because we want to ensure that the full end-to-end Flux GitOps usability, or the full end-to-end GitOps using Flux was tested and usable. So yeah, what we did basically was for Contour, we just kind of waited for the Contour team to notice that this was gonna like break everything and break the world, and indeed they did, and they fixed it. So we just updated to the latest version of Contour with the new repo, and that worked great. So shout out to the Contour team for unblocking everyone there. So there was probably 1 or 2 releases of Radius where we were waiting for that and integrating it. And so far, everything looks good. We've re-enabled the tests. It should be no more downtime from the user perspective. So yeah, if you were seeing any of the chatter about that and the issues, or Discord or whatever, like rest assured that everything gateways should be working now. We've updated all of that. So for the
What was
Git,
Will?
yeah,
What
go
was
ahead.
the Git? I know we were using Git as
Mhm.
just in the test, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Did we
so
replace that
Git,
or something?
yes, yeah, we did. So Git was kind of a at the time of us writing the initial GitOps implementation, however many months ago, we settled on Git as kind of a test infrastructure thing for us. It was just the most convenient option. It was kind of, a Git server out of the box that we could just deploy into our test cluster and use, right? So but the problem was that later Bitnami did this chart deprecation, and then Git was hosted there, so it caused all sorts of problems. So we took it upon ourselves actually to just completely do it ourselves, right? Git ships with a little HTTP backend server that you can run yourself. And so we wrote a little bit of infrastructure around that, and we're deploying that into our test clusters. And so far, it seems to be working great. So yeah, I mean, I guess a bit of a call out to the community. Like we did, we did the time, we did the research. We came up with a solution, and it is working. So, if you ever have this problem with needing to do some sort of end-to-end real world, um, you know, Git functional testing, feel free to copy our solution. I mean, we have it open source in our repo, pretty simple and pretty effective so far we've seen. But yeah, I mean, all that to say is hopefully there's no user impact, right? There was a downtime for about a release on the Contour thing, and then since then we fixed and re-enabled all these tests. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty
that's about it.
crazy how interconnected all of our open source projects are.
For sure.
So,
Yeah,
yeah. Thank you, Will. That's good.
thank you.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff happening behind the scenes you never know about. All right, next kind of big topic after lightning round updates. I wanted to show you a prototype. Ooh, Matthew from Score is here. Great. Thank you for joining, Matthew. So we were just going through the slides I think I shared with you earlier. So welcome. I appreciate you joining. And Reshma, can you make sure he's a presenter? Anyways, so we'll get to Matthew in a minute. I'm going to show you, before we do that, a topic that, so we were, several of us, I can't talk, several of us went to KubeCon in Atlanta several weeks ago. And in prep for that, we were really soliciting feedback from the attendees at KubeCon on ways in which Radius can help enable AI coding agents, pair programming with AI agents, etc. And we built a couple small prototype, and I want to share that with you. I'm just going to walk you through. I'm going to show you just the demo. It's just a video, and I'm just going to do a voiceover for it. So there's two here. They're kind of back to back, and the scenario is a developer building an application, pair programming with GitHub Copilot, and not knowing anything about how to deploy it and test it. And so this is showing a MCP server, a Radius MCP server, and deploying an application. So I'm going to use, I'm just going to run this Yeah, we'll just do the video here. So you can see we're just typing in the right, build and deploy this app. So this app is, this is the to-do list demo app. There's nothing Radius in here. There's no app bicep or anything like that. So we're kind of just starting with a basic, I think it's a Node.js application. And first thing it does is ask, hey, which resource group do you want to use and which environment? So the GitHub Copilot is actually interacting with the Radius MCP server and saying, hey, where do I need to deploy this? What Radius resource group and then what environment? So we're going to say the retail test. This is like a retail setup here. And it's looking at the application and it is, I don't see an application deployment file. It's gonna get some best practices. And then it's going to say, hey, we can add a database to this. And it looks at the resource types that are available in Radius. And it looks at the code and seeing what the code is expecting. And it sees that this application is developed so that it supports both a Redis or a Postgres database for the backing store. And it asks me, which one would you like? I just said Redis. And you can see we got a to-do list up here at the top. So we're going to build the Docker image next. Oh, we're going to create the bicep file. So here you can see just spit out really quickly the app bicep file. So the workload definition. You see we got the application. This is actually a retail bank. So that's why it's called Rad Bank. It's rad. And it has a Redis cache and it has a front end, and down there is our container image. And it added the Radius extensions. This was surprisingly difficult to get Copilot to add extensions correctly. So that was something that Will Smith worked really hard on. Yeah, so if you've used Radius before, that looks really familiar to you. Now it's just it's on the Docker build, so it's going to build my Docker image, build my container image, and we gave it instructions to load the container image into this kind cluster that's running on my local machine here. So Docker build, okay, it's going to get some nodes. I don't know what it's doing there. And then it's going to load the image into the kind cluster. That's the next step. So it's going to use kind load to do that. Obviously, if it wasn't a kind cluster, it wouldn't do that. And it's going to see if the application exists. That's why it's showing the application graph. It doesn't exist. And then it's going to ask, let me pause it. It's going to say, deploy the application. It's going to use the deploy application tool. That's what it's asking. So I want to make sure it's asking, are you sure you want to do that? Because that's a big change. And here in the terminal window, I just set up a watch. So I can see, as the resources get deployed to Kubernetes, we'll see that in the watch. So there's the Redis. And of course, Radius has a deployment engine component, so it knows about all the interdependencies. That's why it did the Redis first, and then the front end container. And then it asked, do you want to do port forwarding? So I set up, yes, we'll go do port forwarding. And there's our application. All right. So I don't think we need to see that part. So that's deploying, that's using, that's kind of a developer in pair programming mode, not knowing anything about Radius and just saying, build and deploy this application, right? So we're really trying to think about how do we remove the cognitive overload from developers of having to know about environments, about deployment tools. We actually don't think developers need to know. We started the Radius by saying like developers shouldn't need to know all this about Kubernetes. And now we're actually saying like, hey, developers shouldn't need to know all this about Radius either. This is just pure overhead. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to show you one more. This one's just a continuation. So I added a Redis, and now I'm going to tell Copilot, hey, change that Redis, just a cache, change it to an actual database. So we'll see this one. This one's really short as well. And we're just going to say, swap the Redis for a Postgres database. And okay, yeah, here we go. I set up my my watch over there in the terminal, and what it's saying is, I see that the Postgres SQL requires a size property. So the size property is a property that the platform engineer here has said, hey, developer, you can set this. It's optional, but set it as t-shirt size, small, medium, large. I don't remember if it just it assumed a small. Okay, so I could have changed that. And what's it doing? So now it's deleting the application because we want to delete that Redis. That's why it checked to see if the application existed. So it's just tearing it down and then redeploying it because we're making this big architectural change. And now it's calling the deploy application. We kind of glossed over, I guess I glossed over it. If you look over there in line 15 through 21, that Postgres resource is in there. That was the Redis resource. So it actually, Copilot actually went into the app bicep file and removed the Redis from the application definition and replaced it with the Postgres. Yeah, so that was kind of quick. So very early thoughts on, how Radius and AI coding tools can interact together. Super early. We're very interested in anybody's feedback on how this world, evolves. So much is changing so much. I mean, even us on the team, like I feel like every other month we're using a different coding tool or a model or whatnot. So we're trying to figure out how's the world changing, both for developers and platform engineers, when we're using AI coding agents both in pair programming mode, like what I showed you here, or in autonomous mode, where we just assign an issue, to GitHub Copilot and then expect a PR in return. Well, sure hope that PR has been tested, right? And maybe you can rely on CI/CD, but not all the time, in a development loop. So we got to think about how do we enable that autonomous AI coding agent to do its own, do all the things that we're able to do as human developers, which we deploy and test all the time. So would love feedback from anybody. I started a thread on our Discord channel, Discord server. These are some initial, these are some initial questions. I'm not only interested in these questions, but these are just to get it started. So, what do you focus on? Pair programming, autonomous coding agents. How do you see this flowing out? Is it all going to be CI/CD? I know there's models out there now where they can test GUI applications. So doing actually UI testing, that's possible today. And what's the best approach? I think Radius with our resource types and our recipes can play a big role in implementing guardrails for these AI agents. But there's other models. I can imagine a policy-based model. I'm not gonna. We can brainstorm. There's lots of different ways to solve enabling these AI agents. But I think Radius could play a role. There's other solutions. I'm interested in your thoughts on what's better. But if you have thoughts, please feel free to hit me up on Discord or anywhere really. And so thanks for watching the demo there. And we'll just keep it going. Mathieu, I'll turn it over to you. Welcome. Thank you so much. So Mathieu and I met at KubeCon a few weeks ago, and he shared some exciting work that he's done with Score. Mathieu, he's a CNCF ambassador and a maintainer for Project Score. If you're not familiar with Score, we're a super big fan because Score is so tight and focused. We really like the focus on it does two or three things, and it does two or three things really, really well. And we often just think about that because Radius, we do a lot of things. We kind of take the other approach. So we often look at Score for some inspiration. So I'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much for joining.
Cool. Wonderful. Thank you for having me first. Yeah, I will, while I'm sharing and trying to see how to share my screen. Yeah,
you want me to show your slide here, or I'll let you, you want to present?
Yeah, I will go directly.
All right, I'll just stop sharing. It's all yours.
Yeah. Wonderful. So you should see the Radius page and now the score page. Is that correct?
We got you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, thank you for having me. I'm a CNCF maintainer from one project or multiple projects, but one project is Core. And like you mentioned, Zach, we got the opportunity to meet during KubeCon Atlanta. And it was a very inspirational discussion we had with other maintainers, the community as well. How a project and CNCF project could also work better together, right? And sometimes people, community, and user could be confused because of us, because of the project, about where project could overlap or be complementary to each other, how they could be used better together. And I think we got this idea. And there is other project out there for the better together story. So it will be all about that. But before jumping into my content, actually, it's a good transition and segue with your presentation, Zach, with this LLM and GenAI. When you mentioned Radius is doing a good job to abstract from Kubernetes, from the developer, having to play directly with Kubernetes and the infrastructure of any cloud provider, right? And you mentioned something very interesting, which is, hey, could we do something more on top of that? And also maybe abstracting maybe the bicep authoring, the app authoring, container authoring, and all the dependencies. And I think that's a good segue, because that's yet another option that I will discuss here today. Again, as a Score project, what we appreciate about Radius is it's very here to simplify the life of the developer, as well as having the platform engineer with all the other technical stakeholders standardizing their platform, right? How we could abstract security, how we could abstract infrastructure and complexity, let's say, again, about Kubernetes. So it's very aligned with Score, CNCF Sandbox project as well, which is first and foremost like a specification. It's a workload specification, and then you should have an implementation. So that's what I want to discuss today. If you're not very familiar with Core, I will go through very quickly, but you could look at some at our website and other use cases we have. But typically, if you see this here, that's maybe the first time you are seeing actually a Score workload specification. So as a developer, I'm defining a YAML file, which is not Kubernetes custom resource. It's a YAML file. And it's with that, at this stage, it's nothing. But what I can do as a developer is already define the name of my workload. I could define the port I want to expose my workload. And I want also to define more information, environment variable, for example. But you could also see that you could already describe your intent to deploy, yes, your workload, but alongside some resource dependencies. In your example, Zach, Redis, Postgres, I want a Redis and a Postgres or a Postgres. So you will list this intent here. Is it in cluster? Is it in AWS, in Google Cloud? Maybe. But I will let someone decide that for me. So that's this layer of abstraction that you could have. And again, you have a YAML file, but then you need what we call a Score implementation. We have two official Score implementation, Score Compose, where you could deploy, generate the Compose file from the Score file and deploy in Docker Compose locally, or you have also the Score Kubernetes. That's two official implementation on top of the specification for the Score project. And what I want to discuss today is this opportunity with a new experimental score implementation, score Radius. And the goal with maybe this buzzy one-pager, again, from a developer standpoint on the left, I have a score file, and I will be able to use this score Radius implementation to generate the app.bicep, or whatever the name you want, but your application containers specification in bicep format, Radius format, with all the dependencies. So we will see that in action. You have a bicep file or Radius file, and now you could do rad run, rad deploy in your Radius control plane, right? So that's the TLDR, where there is an extra layer on top of the Radius authoring and deployment, but just facilitating this this step. So far, so good, Zach and Tim? Wonderful. So here, I hope it's big enough on the screen, otherwise let me know. I could zoom in a little bit. So I will go through a very quick demo.
Hit it up one or two more. Yeah, okay, I got you. That's good.
Is it better like this? Wonderful.
Yes.
Nice. So I'm in a local laptop, and I have access to a Radius control plane deployed in a Kubernetes cluster, but that's just for the setup, right? And now look at this. That's the basic and the smallest score file you could have. So as a developer, and I will go through this demo here, I will define my first score file. I want to deploy a pod info workload, a container, right? So if I go back to here, what I want to do, and I will reduce this guy just for a second, I want as a developer to author my score file, and via score Radius, I want to generate my app.bicep file, right? So that's what I want to do. For this, I will use score Radius init, right? And here, sorry for this. Give me a minute just for that. So what I'm doing here is I'm initializing the local project in order to use score Radius, right? And from here, what I want to do, so I will get this one bigger, but here, look at this comment. Please, score Radius, generate from the score file the actual Radius bicep file, right? And I want to inject a container image already built, but supposedly in your CI pipeline, you will build the image and get this digest or tag dynamically. But hey, I want to generate this Radius file. And you remember the score file was kind of 6 line, and I'm now able to generate almost 20 lines with a basic Radius container, right? And for a specific environment, specific application. But that's generating from score to an app.bicep file. What I can do with that, because score Radius is not touching or interacting directly with the Radius control plane, right? It's generating the file. So now you could still use your own pipeline doing rad run. You could even use maybe a GitOps approach here. But the point is now I could interact directly with my Radius control plane and platform. So I'm deploying here the app.bicep generated from score Radius. So the deployment is in progress. So I hope it won't take too much time.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing to know about score is it, unlike Radius, it doesn't deploy. You would go, you would do it.
Yes.
Docker compose up or a kubectl apply.
Exactly.
Or rad deploy, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So it's to show that it's not replacing, it's a layer on top of this authoring and generation step, if you want, to provide that to your developer. Because now I could go here in my Radius dashboard. I hope you still see the Radius dashboard now. And voila, I have my podinfo app and I have my podinfo container. Very basic, right? So let me continue, because now what we want to do is maybe more advanced scenario. So here, you remember this score file. I want now to actually provide the port I want to export and export, sorry, my container, right? So what I will do here, same approach. I'm just authoring my my score file. So here, well, I just did it. So now I want to regenerate my app.bicep, right? So if I go there, now I will see the port here. And if I go to this, I will be able to redeploy via this command. Again, you may want to use, or you may use a different way to deploy, but same principle here, apply. So here it will deploy the container and having a service in Kubernetes. And with the help of rad run, it will actually expose now a new port, which is the 9898, which is actually my podinfo application, right? So just to show you the generation of this one, again, I could run this command and see more information about the application and container deployed. But now what I want to do is a more advanced scenario, because I may want to use external dependencies, a Postgres, a Redis, or other dependencies. So here I will take an example. I want to use a Redis database. So what I just did is importing explicitly a Redis resource definition from a score perspective. Mm-hmm. But that was exposed by my platform engineer. So what I did is this command, which is please import this provisioner that the platform engineer provide to my company, to my developers. So as a developer, I could consume that, because now what I can do is this, which is show me what are the, sorry for the copy paste, show me please the list of the external resources I can use and their definition. What is a contract between me and the platform? And that's very aligned with the concept of resources for from Radius. It's just a mapping again, right? And here you say, oh yeah, I have access to Redis, not Postgres, for example, as for now, but maybe the list will grow. And I could have some params, so input, and I could also have some output, right? So I will explain a little bit better here, but typically here, it's a more complex score file. So you could see that from 6 lines or 9 lines, now we have more. We also have comment, we have args. That's where I will be able to inject some environment variable, and the environment variable are here. And that's where I will be able to use, on a score perspective, what we call the resource output placeholder. And you could see here, resources give me from the cache a host and a port, right? Where it's coming from? It's coming from this section. You remember at the beginning when I described the score specification, the workload spec, and then the resource. That's where you could say, yeah, I want a cache. That's the name of my Redis database. And I could inject some params if I want or not, optionally. But I could also ask for the injection of the output generated by this Redis, because maybe I'm deploying this exact same score file in local, dev, staging, and prod, and the value will change. The secret will change, right? The host name will change. And that's where the platform, which is again, Radius, will do that, will inject that for us, right? So on a score or Radius implementation, we will do just the mapping with the same concept that Radius has. So what's cool with that is, let's say I'm grabbing this, again, as a developer, I'm going there, I'm authoring my score file. Again, I have access to Redis, thank you for that. And now what I could do is, guess what? Still the same generate score Radius command, right? So let me go there. So score Radius, generate from this score file with the same image, please generate the app.bicep. So here we were from, let's say, 35 line, right? And now the app bicep is going to 70-ish. And we are using, so my platform engineer decided to use the in cluster, the default Redis cache from a Radius recipe perspective, right? But then auto injection of the connections, I didn't know about that. I asked explicitly to disable, but by default, maybe I want to still use the default envar injection. The liveness, the readiness, the port not change, all the environment variable, comment and args, right? So it's very much a mapping between equivalent concept, I would say, but kind of simplifying this authoring part. So if I go back here, so now that I have my generate, again, guess what? We will rerun this guy, which is please deploy this app.bicep file. So going over and again to the Radius control plane and platform. And that's where we could see deployment in progress. The platform is resolving, Radius is resolving all the dependencies, right? As a developer, I don't know about that. That's Radius powerful mechanism over there. But yeah, completing the cache and the container, the workload. And now I will have, for sure, I will have my dashboard from Radius to show you now the pod info application. I will have, supposedly, a graph, pod info to a Redis cache, right? So that the dashboard perspective, and again, I could test very quickly my pod info. Nothing crazy here. Yeah, just reopening here, and pod info is Redis now. So I have successfully deployed into my platform over there. I'm very happy. So at this stage, we have seen that we have yet another layer that could abstract this app bicep authoring perspective and part. But now there is a second advantage we could see with this core Radius and score, because now with this exact same score file, guess what? You remember when I was here, I could use score compose or score Kubernetes or score Radius, right? But the beauty here is now we are bringing a way for the developer to also deploy locally with another score implementation. So from the exact same score file, I could use now score compose implementation. So I will init my current project. And here, what I can do, you remember the generate from score Radius, that's the same with score compose. Please generate from the exact same score file, generate a compose file. So if you don't know how to write a compose file, we are generating that for you. And now I have the entire pod info with all the environment variables, the port, and I have also a Redis because someone wrote the Redis recipe for compose as well, right? And that's, again, maybe 60 line of compose with dependencies resolution, etc. So now what I can do is actually use Docker Compose up, like I was doing rad run. I will do Docker Compose up. So building the container if needed, or just pulling and now deploying to speed up the process. I already run that. And now guess what? I could go there and have my pod info running from Docker Compose locally. So it could speed up as well this developer inner loop and not waiting for maybe a CI/CD, going through Radius, Kubernetes, and oh, my container is not running as non-root. Could we check that locally, maybe, or with Redis dependencies, etc., etc. So that's a better together story. I hope it makes sense for the community, for the project. It's an experimental new implementation that we are very proud of. But we want feedback. We want people to try this out. So yeah, I hope it makes sense. Again, thank you for having me. We could follow up on the next step on this. Any question?
This was a great demo. Thank you. Yeah, if anybody else is on the line has questions, raise your hand. We'll unmute you. I had just a couple, just just try to note and during your demo. You had the image and it was like image dot, and then you passed in the -i. What's the dot notation?
Yeah, that's a good point. So what we in the score spec here as a developer, you see here image dot in the score spec. As a developer locally, I don't know the actual container image repository, tag, or digest, right? So as a developer locally, you have your app, but you don't know the actual digest and tag or version that will be deployed in dev, in staging, and prod. Because the score file is, again, agnostic to the environment as well, dev, staging, prod. So here you say, hey, whatever, it's my app. So when you do CI/CD, and CD in this case, or you want to go in dev, we will inject and replace this dot by the actual container image tag, digest, or whatever policy you have. And that's why you saw here -- image.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So it's like specific to the image property in the score file.
Exactly.
Understood. And then what does the init do? I saw like some. Yeah. What all is it doing? It was scaffolding something. Did it have like a state?
Yeah, exactly. That's a state of the current project, right? And you may remember when I did this very fast, I did this. I did score reduce init, for example. Please import some provisioners. And maybe your provisioner are different from dev, staging, and prod, right? Because here I could import the in-cluster Redis from Radius recipe, but I may want maybe the GCP, AWS, or Azure for staging and prod, right? So that's the opportunity for here, defining via the init, what is the context? What is the environment? What is the actual recipes I want to use? So it's creating a subfolder for technical detail here. There is a state file in order to iterate if needed, but there is this actual templating mechanism where each provisioner, you remember the resource type Redis, is actually this guy here. It's a YAML file authored by the platform engineer, and that's where you will say, hey, please, if someone is asking for Redis in this situation, in this context, generate this bicep or reduce resource.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, that's interesting right there. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. For technical
I have
detail,
many more questions, but I'll stop
Yeah.
because we're going to run out of time. But anybody else on the call has a question for right now? While we have Mathieu. All right. So yeah, just in general, a comment. I mean, I think it's great. Like these two projects are talking and collaborating and figuring out how we can do things better together. I mean, for folks that like haven't gone to KubeCon, for example, I mean, you kind of just feel this energy of collaboration. That's really great. I want to kind of make sure we encourage that within the Radius team, and it's super great to have you here, Mathieu.
Thank you again.
We have just a few minutes left. I want to close it off if I can. Just shift just to close it out. Just a reminder for everybody, if this is your first time joining the Radius community call, just please check out the new tutorial that we've put up on the Radius docs, so docs.radapp.io. We've done a lot of work on getting the tutorial to be really straightforward. Also, we should have highlighted it, completely rewritten concepts documents. So the team and I really went through and thought about it. How does Radius fit in with your internal developer platform strategy? What's kind of the reference architecture from a Radius perspective about what does an IDP look like? So please check out the concepts and the tutorial. If you're interested in where we're headed, we maintain a public roadmap, obviously on GitHub, so check that out. And hit us up on Discord, the blog. All this stuff is going to be on YouTube. I'm going to post these videos that I showed you up on YouTube as well. So thank you very much. We're right at that time. Really thanks again, Mathieu, for joining and really great demo. It's great to see SCORE. I mean, we are solving the same problem for the same users. I think the local developer experience with Compose is super interesting. I think that's been a a headwind for Radius, is just the pure local story. So that's probably a good opportunity. But thank you, everybody. We'll close the call and we'll post this video up on YouTube. So everybody have a great week. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you again. Cheers.